I was going to say, the anime look does not look anywhere near as imposing when you're looking up instead of down. And it just doesn't work with the reflection that way. Hi, I'm Steve.
And despite appearances, we're not asleep here. I'm Ian.
And we are going to talk about the unexpected, specifically plot bottlenecks and other unexpected curveballs, which, let's be honest, are kind of the same as plot bottlenecks that you just don't see coming.
And when you are running a role-playing game, if you have done this, you know already. And if you haven't, let us tell you, you will run into the unexpected because you are trying to, on the spot, come up with reactions to the in-world actions of 4 to 6 usually people who they all have different ideas about everything than you do.
And especially with us, we're a gaming group and we're basically a gaming company that emphasize agency on both the parts of the player and DM. This does mean the unexpected, well, to quote the cliche, you should expect it frequently.
So if you're going to be surprised, how can you deal with that?
So first off, let's really quick talk about what I mean by bottlenecks and how anything unexpected could potentially be just treated as a bottleneck. We have a big discussion on that a couple episodes back, but to recap in one sentence, a bottleneck is, simply put, a plot element that, if unsolved, stops the adventure cold.
This could be anything from failing to discover a relevant detail to going off in a direction where you don't have any plot planned, to everybody dying.
So let's talk about that in reverse order, sort of. Everybody dying. Everybody dying is not actually a bottleneck unless your players were so incredibly attached to their characters they can't possibly imagine playing someone else.
Although if literally everybody in the group dies, it can be a bit of a bottleneck, especially if your players are not, as we discussed in the previous episode, part of a larger group.
So the simple fact is, if you end up in a situation where everybody dies or is otherwise rendered unable to continue, the honest solution is pick up a second cast of characters and pick up more or less where you left off. When a large number of people die in quick succession, that raises flags. Even if the people are not majorly connected to society, there are headlines such as 5 unknowns dead in freak accident that will raise flags, get people looking into it, and provide a jumping off point for the adventure. There have been multiple adventures run that kicked into high gear when the players realized that they were literally starting off by being the police team investigating the murder of their former characters, and boom, there you have a hook. So really, if all the characters are dead or disabled or unable to continue in some way, grab new characters, connect them directly to what made the characters unable to continue. You don't have to connect them to the old characters, but the event that ended it all at once, connect them to that event, and there you go. So that's a way.
You could also connect them to the old characters, because no man is an island, and that's something we have emphasized in this game as well. Everybody should have some connections, some people who care about them, and those might give you an in to bring in the new characters as well. Consider both angles.
So, that said, we've got 2 other things that are surprisingly closer than you might think. On the one hand, we have the question of what to do if the players miss a vital clue, and we also have the question of what to do if the players go in a direction where you don't have plot planned. For example, in the Maltese Falcon, Sam Spade, instead of pursuing the clues that he's given about the big man and the bird, decides to go shake down his informants in Chicago instead of New York. There's no one in Chicago who knows the first thing about this case, but Spade is convinced, and so thanks to a red herring that he imagined, he jets off to Chicago and nothing happens. So, to avoid both of these loopholes, the simplest thing is to remember that the plot exists in a quantum state. Until it's observed, until it's actually mentioned and affected, it doesn't exist. In the original discussion of the Call of Cthulhu adventure that sparked this whole thing, if the players did not find the secret door, the second half of the adventure did not happen. The players had no way of knowing that the people that had been captured by the ghouls were going to be used as sacrifices to awaken a great old one, and this bunch of people was the last sacrifices needed. The players would go home and wake up the next morning dead or worse, controlled by a ghoulish great old one.
So instead of that, let me give you an example from a game I ran using the adventure system. This is from the Trinity game line, and it has a dramatic editing mechanic where players are allowed to spend a resource to say, but this happens on screen as part of the story. And in the case that I'm remembering, there was something very similar to the Sam Spade example that was mentioned, where there was a player mistake where they had misheard a couple of things that I had said, and so they said that they were going to get on a plane and go to Paris because they'd heard me saying that the person they were talking to was in Paris, and they thought that I meant that the clue that they were supposed to follow up on was in Paris, when I'd actually said a different city. But they decided, no, we're going to Paris, and they spent the 3 inspiration, and it turned out that actually the real plot was going on in Paris now. And that's exactly what we're talking about with the plot doesn't exist until the players go to get to it. If you have not established that it can't possibly be where they're going, why not just reestablish it where they're going?
Similarly, if there's a ticking countdown that the players are completely unaware of, you are under no obligation to make that countdown happen exactly according to plan. The countdown functionally begins when the players become directly aware of it. Unless it's very important that let's say that the bank robbers need exactly 17 security keys to get what they need, and 7 have already gone missing, and your characters know that this is the 8th. Well, there it's not so much important. There it's important to actually keep to the timetable if exactly 13 is the exact number. On the other hand, if the bank robbers are simply trying to secure as many security keys as possible, and the players are willfully or accidentally missing clues, then 8 becomes 9, becomes 10, becomes 20, becomes, well, eventually the bank robbers are going to succeed, but they start succeeding robbing banks. They don't necessarily rob every bank the world over with their countdown-enabled keys, unless the players are aware of the countdown. The plot can always follow the players if necessary.
And finally, if the players are aware of a countdown and are aware of the consequences, and they still go the wrong direction or willfully miss clues, even though you have made sure that they've gotten enough information that they could be following up on this direction, despite failures, because as we've discussed, failures don't necessarily mean you don't get the information, they just mean something bad happens to your character.
You're presented at a disadvantage, exactly.
Then let the bad thing happen.
Yep.
Consequences and the tension that comes from those consequences are part of this game. If the players choose not to pursue this thing that is going to have sweeping results, they should see those sweeping results come into play and have to deal with them.
Just remember, there are 2 factors at work here. The first factor is that agency is not agency if neither side respects it. This goes for DMs and players, by the way. Players, respect your DM's agency. This is very important. But number 2, a countdown that doesn't happen on screen doesn't actually add tension. The laws of drama indicate that the audience awareness is what drives attention, not the secret plan happening. There are plenty of secret plans that happen and are unopposed and don't add any tension to anything at all, because how could they have gone off? Well, nobody even knew about them in the first place.
And in a role-playing game, the audience is also the characters, is also the actors of those characters. So the players need to know, and their characters need to know, for there to be a reason for them to follow up on this countdown.
So,
or count up.
So, or deadline, or whatever it is.
And
we're starting to ramble, so that's going to be our clue to end this for today. We did not miss that clue. We'll see you at the next topic, which is currently undecided. Thanks for calling through the cracks with us.
We probably won't be at the same undisclosed location, but that could just be us throwing you off the clue.